Hi everyone, my name is Tina Aswani Om Prakash, and I'm very grateful to have been named this year's Honored Hero for the New York City chapter of the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. I'm here today to share my story with you all, so here goes nothing. I was at the top of my game, having just graduated college, with a Wall Street career all lined up, and bam, just like that, the colitis hit. At the tender age of 22, when my life was just supposed to be beginning, my existence became a perpetual case of where's the nearest bathroom and having to bolt to avoid accidents. Between wearing diapers and trying to date while popping pills and using enemas, I began to realize how tenuous life is. It was a scary proposition because my dad passed away at 39 years of age from a wicked case of Crohn's that turned into colorectal cancer. And his sister quickly followed suit. And here I was, barely awake from my first of over 100 colonoscopies, hearing the words ulcerations and inflammation thrown around. It was unnerving and terrifying all at once. Today, 12 years, over 20 surgeries, and hundreds of procedures later, I'm happy to say that I'm still alive and kicking. I continued to work in investment banking, taking time off to mend from surgeries until the stress, the fatigue, and constant flare-ups did me in enough times. A decade ago, after returning from my 24th birthday in Cancun, I developed a horrible case of food poisoning, and I was never the same again. I took antibiotics, which gave me an infection called C. diff, which is a debilitating intestinal condition caused by antibiotic overuse. It resulted in 15 to 20 bowel movements a day, watery diarrhea, nausea, dehydration, and fatigue like none other. And that C. diff subsequently brought about a never-ending colitis flare that lasted over 8 years. I remember crying in my former gastroenterologist's office as I had an accident in his hallway, and as I continued to lose weight, and along with it, my sense of self and personality. At the end of 2007, I was 135 pounds. By mid-2008, I was barely 85. I had tried every medication and every alternative treatment under the sun, and was being fed by an intravenous PICC line in my arm. I was dying. I was rushed to the hospital where my surgeon removed my colon on the 4th of July. And as I found out later, he and his boss, the chair of colorectal surgery, were unsure I would survive that operation. Heck, I was even certain I wouldn't. But I had no choice. I was told that death was certain if I didn't have surgery. As Independence Day came and went, I woke up alive and very thankful to no longer be dependent on a disease-ravaged colon. And overnight, I found myself a new best friend, my stoma snuffleupagus, as named by my ever-devoted husband. It took me about 2 months of receiving IV antibiotics and nutrition before I began to eat more than a morsel of food. And how can I forget spending my 25th birthday in the hospital with yet another bout of C. diff. I recovered nearly 6 months later and went on to have some more surgeries so that my surgeon could fashion a J-shaped pouch for my small intestine, which would allow me to defecate like a normal person again. And before long, I ended up developing something called pouchitis, a new brand of inflammation that hits in the J-pouch and causes IBD symptoms of bloody diarrhea 20 or more times a day. After several months of on-again, off-again pouchitis, I was left on a rotation of antibiotics for a few years. That was until the pouch began to fistulize, or burrow holes into other organs. My diagnosis was changed from ulcerative colitis at that time to Crohn's disease. I developed a total of 5 rectovaginal abscesses that became full-fledged fistulae and ended up resulting in UTIs galore, along with immense pain, bleeding, in addition to multiple additional surgeries. Along with it, I developed a whole host of extraintestinal joint and dermatologic manifestations of the Crohn's. Now, to allow the fistulae to heal, I was yet again rushed to the operating table and was given another stoma. I was again fed by IV lines as I began to retry biologics. And when none of them worked, I was told to have the pouch excised. I had exhausted all my options and fought so hard for 6 years to keep that pouch. And I felt like I had failed. My pouch was removed, and I was left with a large wound and a permanent ostomy. Except the wound never closed like it was supposed to. I bled for months and went for a second opinion at the Cleveland Clinic, where I was told that the Crohn's had continued and pieces of J-pouch and rectum were still inside. There was a massive honeycomb-like abscess in my pelvis, where the J-pouch once was. And according to MRI reports, a pelvic fistula had formed and was headed for my tailbone. I was told that it could paralyze me and that major corrective surgery was my only option. I was given a PICC line yet again to deliver IV antibiotics, and I ended up restarting adalimumab. I went for a third opinion at the Mayo Clinic, where the surgeon wanted to try another technique. He re-excised the pouch 3 more times so that no pieces of bowel would be left behind to cause the Crohn's to spread. He left a wound the size of a small football, and I was left with a wound vac attached for 4 weeks thereafter. Every alternate day, I had a procedure under sedation in my room to debride that wound. The vac was pulled after a month, and I was left with a 3-inch deep wound for my mom and my husband to pack. After such excruciating pain, I thought I was out of the woods. But yet another RV fistula was found, which was perplexing because I had no rectum left. It was just a hole, something I was told had only been seen twice before by my gastroenterologist. My doctor there prescribed antibiotics, 6-MP, and a double dose of ustekinumab, which was still in trials for Crohn's at that time. It took several months of misery, but the wound finally closed, and the fistula was untraceable. Come 2016, the word remission was suddenly being thrown around for the first time in my life. And I didn't know what to do with myself. When a disease snatches one's womanhood, how does one even begin to resurrect oneself? Nevertheless, after 3 near-death experiences, I am thankful to be alive, and for every single surgery and for every single breath. Every time I have fallen, I have picked myself up higher than ever before. And that is my very own personal miracle and my greatest achievement to date. My medical staff, my friends, my family, and the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation are my rocks, my backbones, and a source of constant support. Every time I lose hope, they help me to stay afloat. A year and a half later, yes, I have 8 new chronic diagnoses to manage, but I refuse to go down without a fight. My battle with Crohn's has given me a newfound appreciation for life, a joie de vivre like no other. Not a single day goes by without me remembering how far I've come and how much life I have yet to live. I may not be able to work, but I am able to volunteer in between health crises. Co-facilitating the Women's Support Group within the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has given me a voice, a platform to raise awareness for these awful diseases and help women like myself to advocate for treatment and for maintenance of care. Inflammatory bowel disease may be a beast, but it is worth putting up a fight for your loved ones, and most of all for yourselves. Inflammatory bowel disease may derail our careers, our educations, and our relationships, but it cannot take away who we are at our core. So we must keep on fighting the good fight and never lose hope. Here I am today, continuing to fight in the memory of my late father, for my dear mother, and for my beloved husband, as well as all the friends who have stood by me along the way. I fight for new treatments to be developed and for a cure someday. I fight for you and me, for all of us at the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And I want you all to remember, you are not alone. We are all in this together, and we are all champions of these awful diseases. Thank you for selecting me as your 2018 Honored Hero, New York City.